I will never be a memory.
What is going on, everybody? The experience on the Steam Deck might be a little wavering because it is Linux. This has happened with multiple games where the experiences and performances got a lot worse with new updates. And a lot of the times the Steam Deck has gigantic updates for these small titles because they have to redo the shader cache and about half of the game. Because for some reason, Valve's accountability level is pretty abysmal. A lot of games at first, like with Linus Tech Tips trying out Horizon Zero Dawn, and with later levels just simply not working on the Steam Deck. And I've been saying this from day one. It's been a year and change. Valve just doesn't look into games as much as an ordinary development studio does. They look at about half of the game and assume the game's going to play well the whole way through, but it doesn't. And that happens most of the time. So there will be these huge updates for these titles. And I'm not sure which title it was recently, but there was a 45 gigabyte update for this 10-year-old game on the Steam Deck. There's no way that game was still supported or would even need a 45 gigabyte update. But it was mainly because the Steam Deck had to reusher shader cache in the right places, like with Soldier, Proton 7, and Experimental. But it does this almost every single time I start it up. And with Street Fighter 6, I can just see this happening, where my confidence would fully be in this handheld, and then all of a sudden there's a gigantic update preventing me from playing this title. You know how many times that happened on the ROG Ally in the first 2 weeks? 0, because it doesn't need to reestablish all of these giant chunks of the game just to make it slightly more playable or to fix an update that made it unplayable. In my opinion, the ROG Ally was just a lot more seamless. Even though you don't have the fancy gaming mode, it doesn't matter. You can still scroll to something and play the game. It just plays. While it's the opposite, with Steam Deck you have this fancy gaming mode and you can get to your content so easily. But a lot of the time, if not most of the time, there's something wrong with the game, even if it's verified. I rather have the former, where the game is just guaranteed to work, but it takes a little longer to get to it without the super fancy gaming mode. But here's the fact and the matter. When you have that super fancy gaming mode, if Windows were to make it, there would be certain features that don't work for the gaming mode specifically. Just like with Forza being playable on the Steam Deck. It only worked in desktop mode because there were certain things in desktop mode that the game had that it didn't in gaming mode. The same goes for if Windows makes a gaming mode, it needs to reinvent all of these components for that new interface. And just keep in mind, if you are buying a Steam Deck specifically to play a title like Street Fighter 6, the internal memory will work against you. At some point, if you don't have enough memory in your Steam Deck, if you bought the 64 gigabyte version, the Steam Deck auto deletes Proton version. That's the equivalent of the ROG Ally auto-deleting DX11. Games just won't work if your storage is low enough, and it becomes hair-pullingly frustrating. And there were people around me when Proton auto-deleted itself. It did it about 3 times for me. I remember downloading a certain amount of games on the Steam Deck, and then a few hours later, I tried to start a random game and nothing wanted to work because the Steam Deck auto-deleted Proton 7.0. That's the main Proton on the handheld that operates most, if not all, the games, unless you set a customized Proton. So just a little warning, if you do get a Steam Deck, you're going to have some major horror stories. And at this point, with better options available and having a Windows 11 version that's actually not that bad, and all of your games at your disposal, all I can pinpoint this insanely aggressive clinginess to the Steam Deck is something called trauma bonding. Now, I've had actual trauma with the Steam Deck, and yes, it has a lot of good things like plugins, but guess what? My plugins still don't work after the third to last SteamOS update. So those great things just don't work for me, and my storage is consistently low. And it's just sad to say that the only way I can actually appreciate the Steam Deck is if I have enough storage available internally. But with the ROG Ally, if you're just getting that, it's going to be a simple Windows handheld. It's pretty much a gaming laptop in the palm of your hands. If you run out of internal space, nothing is going to auto-delete. You can pretty much get an unlimited amount of games and don't have to worry about reoccurring glitches and Proton versions and your internal memory eating away at itself just to make a gameplay better. Because of shader cache, I really don't think the Steam Deck is worth picking up over an ROG Ally. Personally, if you just don't want to worry about these insane Linux headaches that will occur later on down the line, and you just want to play a game at full resolution without worrying about which update to download and what setting to put at what because your hardware is limited. With ROG Ally, just put it in turbo mode if you don't want to mess with the settings, and the game will most likely work. It's that easy, just one touch of a button, and you don't have to worry about settings anymore. Just plug it in or get a power bank if you don't want to mess with all that. Well, with the Steam Deck, you have to know which Proton version to use, and if you downloaded the shaders, and if the latest update messed up your game like it did with Dying Light 2, Prototype, Darksiders, and a lot of other games I could just list off the top of my head. And you won't have to wonder, hey, I used to have 100 gigabytes internal space. Why when I downloaded these 5 games, I went down to 60? What's going on? Well, welcome to the world of shader cache, my friend. But with ROG Ally, when you download a game, oh my goodness, the internal space is exactly how you left it. Go figure. And even while trying to get some screenshots off my Steam Deck, for some reason my Steam Deck was just going slow because it was at 15%. And for some reason when the Steam Deck is at 15%, it's in old timer mode. That doesn't happen on the ROG Ally. You can have that thing in turbo to the last percent. So yeah, there were a lot of people complaining about the Steam Deck as well. When you get to about 20 to 15%, your game is either going to crash or play a lot worse. So you would say that you can get an hour and a half on both, but don't forget about the last 20% of the Steam Deck. When that happens, there's going to be a ton of glitches that prevent you from doing anything. And these are just the small warnings I have for anybody that's going to get one. A realistic consideration of what you're going to get and what kind of performance you're going to get if you're just casually picking up a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a good one. Later.